Forbes India presents D2C Disruptors Awards, powered by Smytten.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Swaagat, Bhaskar, and Sukhleen. Getting right to the topic, I'm going to start with you, Sukhleen. If you can tell us a bit about how do brands sort of leverage the ever-changing digital and new media to continue being relevant for these new age customers, so to speak?
I think customers are you and me. So the very fact you stay relevant is by A, being authentic, B, recognizing that all of us are changing, right? Earlier, the only factor you would perhaps consider would have just been benefit and price. Now you spend that time discovering, you do your research, you look at ratings. The very fact that all of us are today picking up brands that didn't have a legacy past, and many of us today are sitting in this room hearing about brands which have a sizable value, but these are brands born less than 5 years ago, and the very fact that's happening is because consumers today are wanting to try new products, new brands, and that itself is reflecting of the changing reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bhaskar, coming to you, since the pandemic, consumer behavior has changed drastically. A lot of consumers today probably are making a lot of pre-planned or without any planning, just doing random shopping, if I were to say, on Instagram or lots of different social media platforms. So, tell us more about these new consumer behavior trends. How have they changed in the last couple of years?
I think the last couple of years, retail has completely transformed, right? All of us, you've heard Rajan, and I think e-commerce has really taken off. But as the pandemic has receded, we are seeing that people are really going back to offline in a very big way. So the biggest change that we see is that I think the future of retail from now on is going to be omnichannel. Whether you are a digital-first company embracing offline, or you're an offline company embracing digital, and the fundamental behavior change we see is that today's consumers are coming to digital not to look for what to buy, but also where to buy. If you are not able to kind of offer that hybrid experience, as a brand, or if you are not able to, if your media options are not able to land this choice right to the user in terms of where to buy, again, you are missing out a large opportunity of sorts. At the same time, I think the D2C brands have taken off in a very big way. We see almost 600% growth in D2C, people looking for D2C brands, and that will continue because, as a gentleman asked this question, the shift from unbranded to branded and unorganized to organized is going to be so massive in this decade. And with 100, 200 million plus users coming to shopping and discovering new products online, the willingness to try new brand or a product has never been so amazing. So two very large trends. So one is an omni-channel is a big trend, and almost 9 out of 10 users expect hybrid experiences from brands today. And the second is, I think, the shift for new brands and willingness to try new products has also been the highest. And one last thing, if I may, the new age consumers are also looking for more immersive experiences, by brands, and that's something that we see should also take off with 5G and all coming in.
Could you expand a little when you talk about immersive experience? What exactly are consumers expecting?
If you look at I don't know, we spoke about our friend talking about Omni as a Maruti Omni car, not as Omni channel. But today, most car discoveries are actually happening online. Almost 95% of people decide which car to buy online. But if you want to buy a bike, or digital showrooms, or immersive experiences of looking at a car, and very digital first experience of experiencing a new model is very important right now before buying a bike or a car. So call it AR, call it VR, call it mixed reality, call it extreme reality. I think depending upon which category you operate in, today there are technologies which are able to provide that, and particularly the more Gen Z or millennial consumers you are speaking to, there is a need for making some of these experiences more immersive, over time.
Right. I'm going to come back to the technology question in just a bit. Swaagat, coming to you, you work with D2C brands on a regular basis, multiple brands constantly. Tell us, if you can share some insights and factors into what are some strategies that companies are adopting to acquire new customers today?
Cool. First of all, I'm very glad that Sukhleen mentioned try thrice and Bhaskar mentioned try some 5 times. So that's what we stand for, right? So see, again, I mean, we all spoke about D2C brand, omnichannel and all. One thing we fundamentally believe that whatever channel it is, the consumer funnel doesn't change. So your awareness, consideration, intent, and purchase, the consumer is going to traverse through that funnel irrespective of what. So as a D2C brand or a traditional brand, whatever it is, you need to think through having an engagement opportunity for the consumer across the funnel. Okay. Like, for example, you are leveraging all your digital media or your print or TV, whatever it is, that essentially you are kind of touching the consumer in the awareness funnel. And if you see as an industry, and especially if you are primarily pegged on online, from an awareness touch point to actual conversion, there is a 99% drop in the funnel. Your whole industry conversion percentage hovers around 1%. Wow. So if as a brand you cannot figure out how to funnel back that 99%, even if you are not getting all those 99%, 20%, 30% of it back to your funnel, then you're just kind of, it's a leaky bucket. Exactly. You're just kind of always spending money. Yeah. So a lot of D2C brands, for example, we are figuring out how they are trying to have those engagement modalities. Like a lot of brands we work with, they talk to a consumer because today as a digital brand, you can directly talk to the consumer. They do a lot of crowdsourcing of the ideas. So there is a co-development of the products. There are a lot of brands today which are kind of, again, we work with almost about 1,000 brands. Yes. They're using sampling as a kind of a leading mechanism to engage with the users in that middle of the funnel. There are a lot of brands, if you see in their website and all that, they're playing a lot on the content, just rather than making it a catalog experience. They're trying to kind of explain, have a story, and there are a lot of platforms which are kind of now moving from just a transactional engagement to more saying, okay, hey, if I am a kind of a derma brand, can I plug in a cosmeceutical kind of a content angle to it? Yeah. Or can I have a cosmetologist who can be available on call? So those are the innovations that are happening today in the D2C industry.
Right. And just to add to that, a big part of the new age customers or new media is social media, right? Which a lot of D2C brands are using to promote today. But that also means that there is a lot of clutter on the platform. How can a D2C brand in that case sort of stand out?
Okay. So just statistics, on an average today, a digital consumer scrolls through 400 feet of thumb content. Wow. 400 feet on a daily basis. So that means you imagine if as a brand, you are saying that, okay, I'm going to follow the same traditional means of advertisement and having a banner which is like 120 by 780, which is half-inch in width and all that. Yeah. So imagine you're just kind of having a real estate which is half-inch in a 400 feet of scroll. So there is a lot of innovation one needs to kind of think through in terms of how they're engaging through different types of content.
Right.
So, and when I say content, it doesn't mean that I'm going to produce a funny video or I'm going to produce a kind of a DIY or how to do things, right? I mean, those are the things, many times the format in terms of delivery also becomes very boring to the consumer. So you need to understand, kind of marry the targeting and the content strategy and say, like, for example, if I'm talking to someone on an Instagram, can I kind of deliver my product benefit in a very 5-second, very engaging sort of a video? And how do I kind of take that platform's experience, native experience, and seamlessly merge my communication? So if you have cracked that, then you have the attention of the audience.
Wow.
That's like what's going to work on YouTube is not going to work on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's very well put, actually. And talking of social media, Sukhleen, coming to you, one of the most effective ways of marketing, especially on social media, happens to be, influencer marketing in a sense. Tell us, why this works very well, A, and B, do you think eventually, and now with so many digital stars sort of coming up, do you think it's going to hit a level of saturation in a sense?
You know, so I'd answer this a bit differently. So for a minute, if you think of brand building and take away the burden of thinking channel, don't think D2C, don't think offline. Fundamentally recognize the fact that if you had to adopt a new brand or a new product in your life, you had to stop using something you were using before, right? So for a consumer to try and discover a new product, you have to take away the risk. Now, how do you take that risk away? Either it could be through a recommendation that comes from a friend that I trust, or it is like a free sample that I tried. I actually liked the product, it surprised me. I said, why not buy it? So fundamentally, all marketers have to address four-letter word called risk. If you can help solve for risk that the consumer is taking by paying that money to try a new brand, you will start seeing a lot of affinity. Now, speaking of social media, why does it even work right now? It's simply because it's got advocacy built in.
Correct.
You're using it, you're using it, you're using it. Oh, let me try it. And these people are not celebrities. These people are not brand advocates. These are people I relate to. Would we hit saturation? Yes, I think we would. Like if you see markets like US, saturation did come in. But having said that, I think even now we have massive headroom for growth. And even within that, it's important that your content remains authentic. Right? You don't try and manipulate the content.
Correct.
You know, as long as you're being honest, there are going to be people who like your brand. There'll be people who probably may not find it relevant. We've got to live with it. You know, so like when I was growing up in school of marketing, there used to be a very famous thing which one of my bosses used to say. In the middle of the road, you only find dead dogs, right? So you either stand for something or you don't. So it's all right. You will have people who like you and love your brand, and there would be detractors who would not find it relatable, which is absolutely okay.
Yeah, wow. That's very well said. And coming back to you, Bhaskar, you know, we spoke about technology just a while back. You spoke about how a bunch of brands are using technology today. But can you tell us how necessary it is for brands to sort of include technology as part of its brand campaigns, marketing, etc., and how important is it for them to leverage technology to the best possible way?
No, I think it's a great question, and I feel this word of technology transformation is used very loosely, depending upon the company or the person you're talking to. But I think fundamentally, I believe what technology can do is to really understand your customer better. Like for example, maybe Unilevers or P&Gs did not know who they are selling their shampoo to, right? While Mama Earth knew who they are selling their shampoo to, or Good Glamm now knows. And the fact that you know your consumers actually will help you to build a far more, sustainable, scalable business faster. So I think where we see companies thriving is people who invested in technology infrastructure better are able to move away from channel centricity to more customer centricity. If you look at smartphones right now, most of them are defining. Earlier, they used to really give away, their phones for marketplaces to sell. They were not bothered who are they buying, who are they selling to. But if you look at it now, whether it is Xiaomi or Samsung or many of these players have built their own .coms, have built their own, all their offline retailers are actually discoverable. They connected their online and offline. So I think all this, and most of these automotive dealerships are actually built hyper-local capabilities. Most of the D2C companies also connecting their apps with their offline stores. So all these are enabled by technology. So great technology is always invisible, right, for the end user. And so to me, first party is going to be the biggest fuel for growth as we go forward. And in a world which is moving away from cookies, the more you invest in first party will also secure your business in a very privacy first world. So it just works both ways in building great brands faster and in also being ready for a privacy first internet.
Very interesting. Swaagat, coming back to you. tell us, what is this new age customer? I'm tired of saying new age now, but what is this new age customer really looking for? Is it, authenticity, value for money, quality product? What is it?
Okay. See, again, you can't just put like one formula fits all to a new age consumer, right?
Right.
I mean, as they're evolving in their journey, their requirements, their ambitions, their aspirations are also very different.
Yeah.
So there are 5 fundamental reasons why we believe there is a use case for a new brand adoption, right? So one is, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever, because of the democratization of information, the whole world is living in a bit of FOMO.
Yeah.
Right? So that is kind of one of the biggest drivers where you say that, okay, am I missing out on anything? The second thing we say that, okay, there is a kind of an inherent dissatisfaction that was there, and previously there were probably no options.
Yeah.
Now the consumer has a lot more options, and then they're trying to get over that dissatisfaction. The third is, again, which is again as another counterpoint of probably the information democratization, that there is a lot of choice. And sometimes the consumer is saying, okay, let me try this, let me try that. So there is a bit of a dating happening today.
Yeah.
And the consumers are trying a lot more things. The fourth factor is there is like some concern the consumer is trying to solve for. Like, for example, if you look at hair fall as a concern, right?
Yeah.
It's been haunting, I think, with the pollution going up and with all these things happening with the stress and other factors.
Yeah.
Last 20 years, nobody has been able to kind of solve for it.
Yeah.
And suddenly there is a lot of new age solutions that came up, and people said, hey, let's kind of give it a shot. So there are like 4 or 5 fundamental factors which is kind of driving the consumption of this new age consumer. Now the use cases for that consumer in the same day varies across these 4 buckets. So then you need to figure out that on what context, on what platform, what are you communicating the consumer with?
Correct.
And that is what Bhaskar was telling you, right? That is what technology helps you to do. It
Exactly.
helps you to build a context, understand the consumer, and kind of hence tailor the communication. Right? So if I'm coming for a hair fall concern solution, I should be showing a onion hair fall shampoo rather than saying about a shiny hair product.
Yeah.
But it is very easy to confuse that context if you don't have the right technology or if you haven't invested in understanding the consumer funnel.
Right.
So for a new age consumer, I would say there is no one definition. The context is very different for them.
Yeah.
And the use cases are much varied for them from previously what a consumer used to look for.
Wow, interesting. I wish this conversation could go on, so I'm just going to look at, take one last question from each of you. Sukhleen, coming to you, currently the Good Glamm Group is a house of brands with multiple brands that you guys already have. Tell me, how important is innovation for you? Of course, you acquire brands, but you're also constantly innovating and coming up with new products. How important is innovation for you?
I think innovation is super important because it helps you stay relevant.
Right.
And I think the very reason today people are choosing a new brand versus a brand of the past is because they're innovating much faster than the traditional companies of the past, right? So I think fundamentally for the brands that we are building, we are focusing a lot of effort on defining where would we stand for?
Right.
What's our positioning? What do we stand for? Right? And then in terms of creating an innovation pipeline, it's imperative that you bring to market which is truly first to market. And we spoke about the need for product differentiation, even in the earlier panel.
Yeah.
I think it's even more important than ever now because there's such a massive proliferation of brands. And it takes consumers 1 minute to say swipe. I don't want it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So then how do you really actually build loyalty or build a repeat business? That only and only comes when you offer something that others don't. So I think it's probably more important than ever.
Absolutely. Bhaskar, coming to you, you deal with and speak to D2C brands quite regularly, I assume. Tell us a bit about some challenges that a D2C brand faces today in the Indian market in growing it to a unicorn stage or even larger today.
Yeah, I think it's already covered in the earlier session, actually. But fundamentally, the biggest challenge that we're seeing is that how to grow profitably. Profitability has become an increasingly important conversation across D2Cs because, growth at any cost, that's past as we speak. The second big conversation I'm seeing is actually brands, established brands, which I've already touched 100, 200 crores, are looking at tier 2, tier 3, are looking at Bharat to kind of penetrate deeper, who have better presence. That's the second big trend, and how can we help them really reach in a big way is the second big thing. Omnichannel is another big theme across the whole D2C ecosystem on how most of them who are born on the internet, and how now the second phase of growth is just impossible without that. But that's also the toughest phase, right?
Yeah.
You're taking the battle. You're in a D2C world, in a digital-first world. You're playing to your strengths and also the weakness of the big traditional companies.
Correct.
But in a offline world, you're actually playing to their strengths, actually, right? It's not an easy capability to build.
Yeah.
But doing it in a digital-first way with better data, if you look at even companies like Smytten, the way they are disrupting sampling is very unique, right, than many other potentially sampling agencies and partners who are working for decades. So they're able to do it in a very digital first way.
Correct.
And those kind of disruptions will continue to kind of hopefully stay the course of time. But yes, building a sustainable, scalable brand and business is a larger priority than it was a few years back.
Absolutely. Swaagat, the last question for you. Today we have these multiple sectors that we've divided these awards into. Within each sectors, for, like you mentioned, you have 1,000 brands on Smytten itself. How challenging is it for every brand to come up with a niche within each segment? At the end of the day, there are going to be a couple of Me Toos, but how do you still manage to stand out? And I'm sure a bunch of our young entrepreneurs will want to know the same as well.
Yeah, see, if you see the evolution of the D2C industry also, right? So, first of all, when the whole journey started, we said, hey, we in India, we are anyway a very underbranded market.
Yeah.
So there are two sides of the equation. One is the supply side of the equation, one is the demand side of the equation. So if you look at it, I'll take you back to an example which happened, let's say, back in 2012-13 in the online fashion industry.
Okay.
So, and I remember I used to be with Google at that point in time, and when we were saying that, okay, fashion will surpass probably a white goods category on the online purchase, nobody believed. Who's going to buy fashion online?
Yeah, wow.
But it did not happen because there were not enough supply on the other side. Right? So then the Mintras of the world came in, Jabongs of the world came in, they started kind of putting the supply out there and kind of started picking up.
Exactly, yeah.
So now what a D2C industry was solving for last 5 to 7 years is supply side of the equation, right? So previously, like, everyone's hair texture is different, everyone's use case is different, because in India, every 50 kilometers, your skin texture, your climate, your geographic conditions change.
Right.
Now, how do you cater to such a varied demographic and still kind of do things at scale? So previously, if in a category there were 50 products, there was actually a need for 300 products.
Right.
Right?
Wow.
So that's the supply side of the equation, which probably, I think, have gotten solved to a lot, to a good extent in the last 4-5 years, right? Now, you always don't have to harp upon innovation. So you say, okay, fine. Now there are 300 categories. Previously, there were 50 categories I could sell for.
Right.
Now there are 300 categories. Now, how do we develop the market? So now then it comes to the demand side of the story. So many a times what we have seen, because we also work with 1,000+ brands, the brands always get caught up in a continuous innovation funnel.
Exactly.
Right? And many a times in that, you're also innovating for products which probably don't have a need. Because you are under so much of pressure that, hey, if I have a portfolio of 100 SKUs, my next year target is I have to go to 200 SKUs. The first fundamental question is, why do you need to go to 200 SKUs, first of all? And do you have a deep enough consumer insight to say that there is a real need gap for those another 100 products which you're going to come up with? So I don't think that it is going to be a lot of innovation all the time. There are a lot of new categories that have been built, which are under-penetrated. And I think for the next 10 years, as everyone was talking about, right, we are probably kind of living a dream world. I mean, if there was a time to build a business in India, it cannot be anything better than this.
Right. Wow,
If
I think that's
can I just build on that? And
Sure.
I think innovation is overrated. The reason why so many D2C brands proliferated also is because they were innovating on the how. You know, a little innovation here, a little innovation there.
Yeah.
But like, who innovated sachet in India? Which company launched sachet in India?
Was it Kevin K? No?
Kevin Care, right?
Kevin Care.
It
But
was
which
Kevin
company
K.
made money on sachet in India? Unilever, right? And I think it's really about, you know, if you can out execute on a fundamental and how you use sachet to kind of sample new categories, penetrate newer brands at that price point, and out execute everybody faster. And that's what builds brands, actually. That's what builds categories, and that's what builds businesses over time. So I think, which is why I'm looking at all of them, all of you. I'm looking at the future of consumer goods industry. But I'm sure there'll be some brands who will take that leap. You know.
But you know, I think this is where sometimes we also have to broaden our horizon. Innovation is not only product innovation. It's also innovation in the way you sell, right? Today, the very fact direct-to-consumer boomed is because you could service 20,000 pin codes at a click of a button and offer consumers endless aisles.
Yeah.
Now, that's also innovation. What Flipkart managed to do in India with cash on delivery is also innovation. So it's a pity if we restrict innovation to only product.
Yeah.
You have to have an innovative mindset across the value chain. Because if you do not innovate across the value chain, you will not be relevant. It's a fact. Otherwise, versus a traditional company, what do new companies offer, which is going to make them switch? That's a question worth thinking through.
Wow, that's some very interesting perspectives, and I'll definitely have a lot to take back with me, and I'm sure so will our audience. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and hope you guys have a great event ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Forbes India presents D2C Disruptors Awards, powered by Smytten.